It's no secret that violent crime is on the rise. It's no secret that Democrats have demonized the police. They've defunded the police to a great extent. And they've advocated for cashless bail and other reforms, which has resulted in a dramatic increase in crime. It's all true. Now, it may be that we see a lot of these news stories and we're not used to seeing them. Before the internet, you just got the news you got. And they did talk about murder and crime, but they couldn't talk about all murder and all crime. Now that we can see it, maybe we're just being overexposed to reality. Well, that may be true, but it's also true that the stats show crime is through the roof. And horrifying stories like this are a smack in the face and a wake-up call that I think people need to hear. Dude, I was going to do another story and, Donald Trump and a grand jury investigation. Oh, thanks, Democrats. You're going after Trump. That's what we're really upset about. And then I saw this story. It's from really early this morning. It's from about 12 hours ago. Man arrested after beheading young mother in middle of San Carlos Street. Law enforcement sources. Yeah, I'm going to say that again. Man arrested after beheading a young mother. Why? Publicly. In front of other people. And it got me thinking about, there's another story a few months ago about a dude who raped a woman in public on a train and they just watched. Now, I get it, man. You've got some crazy guy with a long bladed weapon removing the head of another human being in front of you. It's like, what do you do? And I got to be honest, being unarmed and going up against someone with a knife, it's not going to be pretty. And it may have just made this into 2 victims instead of 1. People need to understand that knives, in many circumstances, are more dangerous than guns. So what do you do, man? What do you do? Well, law enforcement, police. I'm not a big fan of a lot of what police do. And I've often said of the Democrats, you want to defund the police, by all means, go for it, with my blessing. And now we're starting to see it. And that's why I don't want to live in cities like this. Now, this is just one story. We got a couple more. We got a story about a dude in New York, walked up to a random guy, slashed him in the stomach. I got a story about a dude in Chicago, gets punched, pulls out a gun, shoots another guy, puts him down. We have a bunch of these stories. 2 cops ambushed. Dude, why are we reading about this stuff? There was another story a few years ago. Guy was walking down the street in New York with his 4-year-old daughter. Car pulls up, pop, puts him down in front of his daughter. And I'm just like, dude, I don't like authoritarianism. I don't like when police lie and get away with it. I want accountability. But the Democrats aren't doing this. You see, what they're doing is sane people can see cops acting a fool and say, can we get some accountability here? The Democrats seeking to exploit that say, oh, yeah, sure, we'll defund the police, whatever, if it shuts you up. And it just makes everything worse. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend to have all the solutions. I can tell you this. It's only gotten worse since defund the police, since the demonization of police has expanded rapidly. Now, I know. I do lean fairly libertarian. And I think we have, duly elected police, sheriffs. They do a better job than big city police. I'm not a fan of big city police. I can only say this. As much as I hear what my libertarian friends say about wanting to abolish all the police and everything, I'm like, maybe the answer is Second Amendment. I can tell you right now, outside of the greater ideological context, Democrats have a major problem. They know they have a major problem. And now we got a story from the New York Post saying, vote out the Democrats to stop this stuff. Because I can't stand seeing this, man. Now we got a story about a Democrat arrested for murdering a journalist. Yo, man, these stories are just absolutely crazy. And it's not just about crime. A polio emergency in New York. Come on, dude. Child drag shows, all of this stuff. I think, I want to tell you, I'm wrapping up this segment with some good news because the right is making tremendous gains in the culture war and the left can't maintain the psychosis for long. I think the midterms are going to show that people are fed up with this stuff, but Republicans might lose the Senate. Not that I think the Republicans are all that great to begin with, but if the Democrats retain the Senate, then, we're still jammed up, I guess. But this is about local issues, local elections, and waking people up to stop voting for this stuff. How do you do it? You got to win the culture war. Now, my friends, before we get started, I want to give a shout out, not to timcast.com, although technically that was, but a shout out to Tom McDonald and his new song, Riot. My friends, I'm going to include the link to the description below to Amazon. I don't like Amazon either, but buy Tom McDonald's song, Riot, because He's independent. He's counterculture. He speaks out against this stuff. We need to support people like Tom. Now, I also want to say, too, I know he's like the big name in counterculture, and there's probably a bunch of other artists that we could be shouting out and promoting to, and we will. The establishment, the corporate press, they don't want narratives like this getting out. And it is tough. When you're talking politics, they know how to ignore you. I'm hoping that with all of our support, with all of you watching, buying Tom MacDonald's song, we can push him up in the Billboard charts, force the media to acknowledge it, and then start getting more attention on these issues. Tom's got a bunch of political messaging. He's got songs that aren't political. Riot's not particularly political, but he does rag on the establishment media machine, and I respect it. If we can support each other, if y'all can spend $1 on Tom MacDonald's song by clicking the link below and put him on the top of Billboard, force the media to acknowledge who he is and what he represents, maybe we can shift this culture war faster, start inspiring people to speak up against this, maybe bring some peace and stability to our cities once again. I know maybe it sounds like it's not entirely connected, but let me tell you, when you get woke leftists saying defund the police, when you get major bands on arena stages saying defund the police, so you get stuff like this. Now, I know I got my libertarian friends, they're rolling around saying, no, we got to, look, with respect, I don't completely agree. I can maybe agree with some kind of, with reforms, absolutely with reforms and criminal justice reforms. But dude, I think we need cultural, it's not just about police. I don't want to sit here and sing the praise of cops because I know cops don't do good all the time. But what I'm saying is, this is a cultural problem. We need people to stand up for each other. We need people to fear the ramifications of allowing stuff like this. We just need a cultural shift across the board. What we need is counterculture opinions and voices rising in the ranks, speaking up, giving those interviews, and challenging the machine. I think Tom does that. We did a big shout out for our song 2 weeks ago. Tom's got a new song now. Let's organize. We come together. You spend $1. If we can get 100,000 people out of the millions who watch me and watch him to buy his song, he's number one. Let's make that happen, my friends. Let's read the news now and talk politics. Man arrested after beheading young mother in the middle of a San Carlos street. Man, it's California, dude. Law enforcement sources tell the ABC 7 I-Team's Dan Noyes that a man beheaded a young woman in the middle of the street in front of witnesses. The San Mateo County Sheriff's Department said the crime happened in the 300-400 block of Laurel Street and Magnolia Avenue at 11:50 a.m. During a press conference, Lieutenant Eamon Allen said the crime happened in the street outside the victim's residence. The I-Team obtained law enforcement records on the incident that said just before noon, reports came in that the woman's head was cut off by a sword. At 12:14 p.m., children are there, scared to come, want their mom. We were told the two were in an ongoing relationship, but law enforcement sources say the victim got a temporary restraining order against the suspect, Hayward resident Jose Solano Lindeta, in April. Now, look. It's important to note that crime happens, okay? It's not a new thing. They say the search for the weapon is still ongoing. I'm just saying, it's not one story. It's not an isolated incident. Of course, we have the story about the Democrat who is accused of murdering a journalist. Not that I like journalists, but violent crime is wrong. I got a bunch of stories. There's a whole bunch of stories. Let me show you some of these stories. Chicago, West Garfield Park neighborhood. Man sucker punches a man from behind. Man pulls gun and blows him away. It's like, dude, look, I get it. Don't go around sucker punching people. But this video, I'm not showing you this video to give sympathy to anybody. A dude sucker punches a guy. Why? Don't do that. That's bad. The dude, with no more danger, about to leave, stops, turns around, pulls a gun out, blows the guy away. Why? Is that the kind of situation that we want to live in? Yeah, no, I don't think so, man. Here we go. Just another regular day in San Francisco. People fighting in the street, open air drug use, dogs barking, just cities falling apart. Here's more. 2 sheriff's deputies are shot and killed in an ambush in Cobb County, Georgia. 2 suspects in custody following hours-long standoff with police. Here's another one. Knife men shouting Allahu Akbar stabs 2 people before being shot dead by police in Germany. I know. Germany's not the U.S. I know. I think there's another story that I don't have pulled up. The dude slashes the other dude in the stomach. Yeah, it's just crazy to me that we see so much of this stuff. These stories, the crime, the insanity. And I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you what the issue is. Democrats are starting to realize they got a problem in their cities. Again, I know Germany's not the U.S. It's just another example of this. It's been happening all over, right? Take a look at this. A Democrat elected official allegedly stabbed an investigative reporter to death last Friday in Nevada. At the press conference responding to the incident, a reporter decided to ask the sheriff whether he condemned Donald Trump. I am so sick of this. Dude, I don't want to wake up to read a story about somebody being beheaded. I get it. Crime happens. These things have happened. You've had crime. I grew up in a city where there was a lot of crime. But man, can we get journalists to address the problem? That the attempts made by Democrats have been flaccid and have made things worse. They were letting people out of jails and then arresting people for opening their businesses during COVID. And this is what you get. Let me play you this clip.
So why are we talking politics then?
You condemn former President Trump's normalization of violence against journalists?
No, I think this is probably the inappropriate venue to speculate on that. Or
it's kind of hard to hear.
So why are we talking politics?
This is why we're talking politics.
Do you condemn
former President Trump? Violence against journalists, blah, blah, blah. There's a sickness, an affliction. And it's exactly why I shouted out Tom McDonald's song. Okay? We are working on cultural content here because this should not be allowed. It is not Donald Trump who did this. It was a Democrat accused and charged. I don't know if he did it. Innocent until proven guilty. But come on, guys. When people are exposed to nothing but woke trash in the media, they don't pay attention. They get their news from garbage outlets. This is what you get. So a Democrat was arrested. Is it Trump's fault? What does Trump have to do with this? What we need is regular people being exposed to counterculture, to push back, to shut down these cult psychopaths. I'm sick of reading all of these stories, man. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Grand jury looking into Trump's post-2020 election fundraising. Why? I don't care. Trump's fundraising. Steve Bannon was perp walked. He turns himself in. They say he defrauded Trump supporters. Black Lives Matter is accused of the same thing more than once. Where's the perp walk for Black Lives Matter? See, this is a cultural problem. You've got people who are in a cult who adhere to whatever the mob wants, and the mob doesn't care about you. We need to change things. We need the biggest movies, the biggest music, the biggest video games to have a message saying F you to the cult. So it's one of the reasons we make culture. You may have noticed at timcast.com, we are not expanding our political offerings. We have news, we have Timcast IRL, but we launched a bunch of shows that aren't political. Pop Culture Crisis, Tales from the Inverted World, Chicken City. We're doing a conspiracy show next. Music, not political at all, because I'm sick of it, man. I know it's important to pay attention to politics. I know you listening here, this is a really important and good thing. The next step is winning the culture war. I'm going to say it 800,000 times all throughout this next week. Because people come to me and they're like, Tim's grifting, trying to be a rock star. Tom McDonald's already a rock star. Support him. He's pushing back on the machine. We've got to win this cultural battle. We've got to have better influence for our young people, for kids. Now, I know it's important. Republicans, conservatives have more kids than liberals. Fine, good. But they're still trying to influence your kids, and they're using the arts to do it. Maybe we'll win on the school choice effort. Maybe conservatives will homeschool their kids. Maybe libertarians will homeschool their kids. Politically homeless and traditional liberals, maybe they will too. And the woke people will eventually just be pushed out. We've also got to create influential content doing the same thing. Now, Democrats know what's going on. This story from the Washington Post. Worries over crime haunt Democrats ahead of the midterm elections. Sitting before a dozen police officers last week at a public safety forum, Rep. Susie Lee of Nevada wanted to make clear that she still defends law enforcement in Congress. She will defend law enforcement. I always open up these and say, I do not want to defund the police, and in fact have voted multiple times to increase funding to police departments. Not that I think that's necessarily the solution either. I think reform is fine. I think culture matters. Lee, who was on a list of House Democrats seen as vulnerable in November, told a group that included representatives from two local law enforcement associations, which recently endorsed her re-election campaign. There it is. She's vulnerable. She knows she can't play this far left garbage. But in big cities, they keep on doing it. And the cities are falling apart. Fears that Democrats are losing ground on crime were compounded by Tuesday primary results, which included the recall of San Francisco District Attorney Chesa Boudin. So this story is from back in June, I believe, June 8th. President Biden echoed the concern Wednesday. The voters sent a clear message last night. Both parties are to step up and do something about crime as well as gun violence. Shut up, Biden. Gun violence. No, people need more guns so they don't get murdered in the street. And Memphis, dude. That one really melted my face off. Tucker Carlson comes out and he's like, what happened to Memphis? If we don't stop this, then every city becomes Memphis. And I'm like, all right, Tucker. No, I agree. But, you know, tone it down a little bit, my friend. And then what happened literally that next day? A dude goes around shooting people and live streaming it. And I'm just like, why? The left comes out with their empty, psychotic platitudes. Well, guns are the problem. If any one of those people was armed, they could have stopped that guy. So shut up. The guy shouldn't have done it in the first place. What is wrong is that we are a sick culture. That's the issue. Democrats in vulnerable positions are now coming out and saying, okay. We know crime's bad. Democrats in the far left areas are doubling down on this psychopathy, I would pronounce it. Here we go. The Examiner. From September 6th, Democrats' weakness on crime becomes a statewide issue in Minnesota. Politico details the standing of the state's most vulnerable progressive, Attorney General Keith Ellison. Ellison is polling nearly even with his GOP opponent, Jim Schultz. Crime is about all Schultz wants to discuss, which only makes sense in a race to serve as the state's chief prosecutor. Yeah, they got problems, man. You know, when the McCloskeys had violent protesters break the gate down into their gated community and cross onto their property, they came out with weapons and they were arrested and criminally charged. You see, this is the problem with Democrats. When you defend yourself as a victim, they arrest you. If people don't believe me, when I was in New Jersey is not castle doctrine. In New Jersey, this was explained to me by lawyers and cops. If you are in your house, okay, let's do this. If you're outside your house watering the flowers and a guy starts screaming at the top of his lungs down the street with a gun and starts running at you, you have to retreat into your home. You have to retreat into your home. You cannot stop and stand your ground on your property. You retreat into your home. Here's the best part. If the individual then goes up to your door, kicks the door in, wielding a gun, you are then obligated to retreat out of your home. Could you not? If you can't retreat out of your home, now you have an affirmative defense to use lethal force. So in my scenario, we did not have a back door. We had a basement door. The way the house was set up was like, here's the top of the house, here's a door. The back door was a deck that was 20 feet off the ground, so good luck. Well, it was like 12 feet off the ground and then 20 at its highest. If you go downstairs, there's a back door out the back way. So if someone kicks in the front door, I'm thinking to myself, am I going to have to explain to the police that I couldn't jump off the balcony, or are they going to argue it's only 12 feet you could have? That's what I was told. They said, well, you know, if you use a weapon to defend yourself, you will be arrested, you will be charged, and then you can assert an affirmative defense of self-defense in the criminal charges against you. And I'm like, if a dude breaks into my house, they're like, yeah. Now, the truth is there's discretion. Would the prosecutor really come after you for it? Well, most people told me, oh, of course they will. Why wouldn't they? They don't like guns. In Maryland, it's a little different. I'm told that, because we have a studio in Maryland, if somebody enters our property with a weapon, threatening to do us harm, you have to retreat into your house. If that person then tries to breach the house, you're entitled to lethal force. It was explained to me by lawyers and police. In this instance, in Maryland, you will not be arrested if you defend yourself in your home. You likely won't be, unlike New Jersey. New Jersey is just absolutely evil. In West Virginia, here's where it gets better. Literally better. If you're standing in an open field, which is your property, and a guy starts running at you screaming with a gun, you can defend yourself, and they will come and shake your hand and say, we're sorry this happened to you. Thank you for doing the right thing and protecting yourself and others. That's how it works in West Virginia. You see, it's a cultural problem. I can understand that in Baltimore they got issues, but how does that justify taking away the rights of people who live in the rural parts of the state? New Jersey, similar problems. How does that justify taking away the right to self-defense when you live outside of the big cities? Cultural problems. That's it. And it's not just crime. Democrat policy is a failure across the board. New York declares polio emergency as another county finds virus in wastewater. Man, I saw this. You got to get away from the cities, man. You don't want polio, do you? I think so far only like 1,000 people are said to have had it. There's only one paralytic case of polio. People need to understand when it comes to polio, I think it's something like 70% of people have no symptoms at all. And then it's 25% of people get minor symptoms like a sore throat. And then it's like 4% of people will get gastrointestinal distress and shakes and fever. And I think it's 0.1%. Yeah, 0.1 will get paralysis from polio. Hey, man, I don't want to take those odds. 1 in 1,000 to get paralyzed. No, thank you. A Rockland County man has a paralytic polio infection. Wastewater samples confirm community spread. Now, a lot of people were like, it's the anti-vaxxers. And I'm like, okay, wow. I didn't realize there were so many anti-vaxxers in New York. It's New York City and north of the city. Yeah. Failed Democrat policies. The New York Post gets it from the editorial board, September 6th. Vote out Democrats to stop the New York crime wave. Yeah, I know. We know. You know. It's culture. The police can enforce this stuff, but they need the support of the people. The people have to have a culture of supporting police. I'm not a big fan of how the police are. I'll say it a million times. I'll tell you a story. I was in New York. Left a bar. It's the Williamsburg Bridge. On one end of the bridge is a bar. And then if you cross the bridge, you go onto Broadway. I lived about a mile down off Broadway. So I get into a cab. It's late at night. I don't drink, mind you. I was tired. And I said, here's my address. It's just Broadway. So cross the bridge, go straight. And he goes, you got it, buddy. And then I fall asleep, like sort of sleeping. We cross the bridge. And then I feel the taxi take a left turn. And then I sit up and I'm like, hey, where are you going? And he's like, oh, I'm gonna go around this traffic. And I was like, okay, well, I live on Broadway, which is straight from the bridge. Just go straight. He's like, yeah, okay. And I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. So then I put my head back, close my eyes. He turns right, goes back to Broadway, goes down the street, and then starts turning left again. You know what he was doing? He was zigzagging to drive up the tolls so he could make it more expensive. Second time he turns left, I'm like, bro, where are you taking me? Stop the car. And he's like, no, it's fine. He starts pulling slowly behind, like their car stopped at a light. And so then I'm like, let me out now. So far it was like $9. That was what he was charging me. And I was like, okay. So I say, no, I'm getting out. I grab the door handle and he hits the gas. The door pops open. I jump out. At that point, it was only like 5 or 6 miles an hour. So I'm like, what are you doing, man? He gets out and starts screaming at me and threatening me. So I back off. I say, back off, dude. Leave me alone. He's screaming at me and threatening me. Get back in the car. And I'm like, this is crazy. So we're outside a gas station. I go in the gas station. I'm like, hey, can you call the cops? This guy's going nuts. Cops show up. You know what the cops did? The cops mugged me. No joke. I got mugged by the cops. They walk up to me and they say, pay him his $50. And I'm like, I called you because he was attacking me. Like, I'll pay him what I owe him, but it's not $50. And their meter says 50. And I'm like, it was $9 from the bridge. I called you. He's attacking me. And they said, if you don't give us your wallet right now, we'll arrest you. I said, okay. I handed my wallet to him. She opens it up, took out I had $20-something, handed me my wallet back and says, we're giving it to him. And then I was like, okay. They hand him the money. They tell him to leave. Then they're like, do you want a ride to your house? And I was like, no. Long story short, man, I'm not a fan of New York cops. I'm not a fan of big city police. I don't think they're always doing the right thing. And I think this is part of the problem of our cultural issues. We need something better than back the blue. We need something better than defund the police. We need a culture of responsibility within the police departments and within the population. Maybe the issue is New York is just a crooked and destroyed city, and that's how it's always going to be. I don't want to leave you off on a bad note, though. With all this bad stuff happening, it gets me down. I still kind of feel like there's some good news. I got good news for you. Boise Pride Festival removes drag kids event from lineup. Yeah, they're claiming safety issues. They're lying. The real issue is that 2 sponsors pulled out saying we don't want to be involved with minors doing drag dancing. So We win on that front. Here we go. Tennessee Tech cancels campus drag shows for mocking God, inviting minors. We're winning. This is not a conservative value. This is just American decency, human decency, and it's remarkable. The left is trying as hard as possible. I shouldn't even say the left, because child drag shows are not an inherently left thing. It's just the left is promoting it. They want you. I'd be curious about this. I doubt Jimmy Dore would support child drag, but I don't know. Because he's a true leftist. I find myself to be left slightly, economically, libertarian. They call me right wing because I oppose the sexualization of children. Dude, culture and ideology. In this front, we're winning. There's a lot more going on. This is crazy. I mean, this is not about winning or anything. This is just crazy. Police presence at IRS building in Memphis was a result of misinformation. Yeah, somebody swatted the IRS building. That's just crazy. That's not good news or winning. This is actually more bad news that we're kind of just falling apart, but I had it misplaced in my list. So after a legal fight, Oberlin says it will pay $36.59 million to a local bakery. Gibson's Bakery said the liberal arts college had falsely accused it of racism after a black student was caught shoplifting. I despise the cult. It's amazing. Gibson's Bakery. Some students shoplifted. They caught him, said, hey, don't do that. The campus then contributed to saying they're actually just racists. You try to stop someone committing crime against you and they call you racist? Well, $36.59 million. Oh, feels good to hear it. But they've destroyed the institution of Gibson's Bakery. Been around since the 1800s. They destroyed it. You know what? Gibson's should remain open. They can use their $36.59 million to maintain that bakery forever and make sure they never get shut down again. Never. I think they may have already been shut down, to be completely honest. Yeah, they're going to mention the legal battle, and I just want to see if they've actually been shut down because, ultimately they're forced to pay out this money. Good. It's victory, man. It's just victory. We got a big political battle ahead of us, my friends. In order to change all this, we have to win local elections. It's not just about elections, though, because, I talk about getting out and voting. I'm going to keep shouting out Tom McDonald for the next week or so. I'll tell you why. Friday morning is the beginning of the billboard reporting period. Thursday night is the end. That's why we launched on Friday. It's not always the best idea because you're competing with everybody. And that's why we stopped the promotion on Thursday, because I did a hard push. I don't want to irritate you guys. I know you come here, you want to you want to hear about news, you want to hear my thoughts. Not everybody agrees. But we got to do something. We've got to organize. The left, they're doing this campaign right now where they have a meme. They comment on your page and say, you have been selected to register to vote. You must now comment on someone else's page to register them to vote. You see how good they are at this? And they are. I know. I used to do nonprofit fundraising. So what happens is they're doing like this pay it forward thing. They send the link and say, you can register to vote here. Find out where to register to vote. Then they tell you, now you need to post this on someone else's page. It's chain letters getting people to register to vote. We should probably start something like that too. Get all your friends. Scott Pressler is the man. But it's not just politics. When we released that song, I did a big segment about this. The corporate press told us to screw off because they hate me and my politics. And they had other weird statements too. It's not even about the song. The song we released was apolitical. We've got to impact the cultural machine. We need to take the wheel away from them. And we can do it. If every single person who watches this video clicks the link below and buys Tom McDonald's song, he will chart #1. And then all of these big companies in establishment press will have to ask themselves why that's happening. Because we got organized. Because we said, we don't like you. We don't like what you represent. Look, Disney's approval rating among conservatives is underwater. It's at like 20-something%. We all rag on these woke companies. Jeremy's Razors comes out. Stop giving money to people who hate you. We know that we need to stop funding the woke corporations. But here's a challenge. I know I can't convince you, because you can't convince me, to give up all entertainment. That's insane. Look, I watch, I'm watching Breaking Bad, AMC. I'm watching it on Amazon. I bought a Disney account a while ago. I think it expires in a few months because I paid for the year. And then when I saw what they were doing, I was like, I don't want to pay for this anymore. I'm not gonna. Part of it too is like, I don't want to give them money, but I do want to know what they're saying and doing so I can comment on it and talk about my critiques of it. But once my membership's over, I'm not renewing it. Barring some extenuating circumstances in cultural conflict or whatever. But again, maybe that's jumping the gun and being too overzealous. I want to make sure when people are saying, hey, did you see this show? I can be like, yes, I did. Here's what happened in it, right? But I don't want to give these people money. The solution is not to tell everybody to boycott Disney because people don't want to give up their entertainment. It's to create something you can offer them instead. This is good news that, in the legal front, we're winning. You've got, stories like this in the New York Times. Democrats in vulnerable areas know that crime is bad. Politically, we're going to see some good news. We're seeing good primary victories, people like Carrie Lake. But what about the actual culture war itself? Eric July, he put out Rippaverse, $3 million. Bravo, dude. Glad to hear it. We are going to make stuff. We are going to create an opportunity for people to exist in a space outside of the woke cult. We are going to shift culture and we're going to stop this psychosis. And we are going to have young people saying like, I won't stand here and watch you do this to these people. We're going to build a culture of people saying, I'm not going to make TikTok videos about dancing. I'm going to make videos about being responsible, supporting individuality. And this is where it starts. Pushing back and winning the culture war. So, if there's anything you can do, it's not about giving me money. Thanks for watching this video. Thank you for supporting timcast.com. Now support Tom McDonald. I've only talked to the guy a handful of times. He's a rad dude. That's about it. Not paid endorsement. In no way. This is legit. His music is good. His message is good. He's challenging the machine. I want to see him break the charts. I want to see him at all the award shows. I want to see him stand up and say to all of the industry, you cannot ignore us. I want to see young people listening to Tom McDonald. I want to see teenagers blasting Tom McDonald on TikTok and all that stuff. That's what I want to see, man. I want to see the machine drop to its knees in tears, knowing that it's been defeated and we've won. So we'll see. We got to get organized. So the things you can do right now, get your friends registered to vote, like Scott Pressler's been doing. Speak up and defend yourself and support artists like Tom McDonald who are winning the culture war. Buy his music, put him on the Billboard charts. I want to see it. I hope you do too. I hope with everybody who buys that $1 song from him, he gets more money and he makes more music. Oh, I just love to see it. I love to see the anger in the eyes of the cult when we succeed. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see y'all then.